Welcome, welcome. It's great to see everybody joining us. Some familiar faces. Fantastic. There's a few more people still joining, but we do have a very, very full agenda for you this afternoon. So I really want to carry on going because I want to get on to some of the amazing speakers, and you can stop conflicting like me on yourself. So like I said, I'll just introduce the Global School Alliance, who we are. For those of you who knew and not met us before, the Global School Alliance is absolutely an amazing community. You just want to be there for the amazing people who are in it. But we basically have all the same vision of, improving global education, committed to empowering educators and students to improve their futures. Our vision is to help create this network to support each other, to provide you with tools and programs and opportunities to help develop your global aspects. And we have a major mission. We've actually started this new academic year with a new mission, a new, a lot of development going on. So lots of exciting things coming up for you, which I will allude to a little bit going on. But one of them is we're looking at investing 10 million into improving the opportunities for global educators around the world. And we'll, like I say, here's some of our amazing ambassador pros that have been with us. Tatiana, David and Fethy and everyone have been with us for a long time. And I think a lot of you will have known them from previous calls as well. So the way we want to support schools at the moment is through partnerships initially. So I think the networks and connecting and supporting each other with ideas is the way the world works, isn't it? Meeting people is the best way. So you could have virtual partnerships, which are just online. Sister school partnership program is a bit of a longer term and more commitment, as in that's when we want the travel to start, when students can get back out there and visit sister schools and travel around the world. Touch wood, that is going to start again next year, and I've already started making a lot of plans for students and teachers to get moving. So with a bit of luck, that will be starting again. So obviously the aim is to help MFL teachers with obviously increasing motivation, attracting back to languages. There's been a lot of reports recently, and another one just out, about how languages, the uptake of languages and the motivation for students to learn languages is at almost an all-time low, mainly because they see it as a hard thing to do, and that they all are geared at results, aren't they? So that we want to help promote languages, because language is a culture. I think if you know that language and the culture is so closely linked, that we want students to learn languages through culture. And again, it improves the output of the school, improves the attractiveness of a school, developing cultural capital, which we'll learn more about today, your global dimensions, making it more inclusive, and obviously it ticks lots of boxes in the SMSC character aspects. So I'm going to stop waffling on, because coming soon, this is what I was saying, we are basically looking at developing a global education fund where we want to help schools become globally minded, offering a lot more global opportunities, looking at global curriculum, and we're putting some money into that to help it work. So keep an eye out for what this 100 school challenge is all about. We'll be hearing a lot about it. Like I say, as an online community, it's free to join, and the benefits are amazing. Apart from connecting with schools and educators around the world, you get these free monthly conferences. We have our student council. We have the Global School Awards program to help sort of guide you as a framework. We do competitions. There's lots of projects and resources to get involved in. So there's no reason not to join, really. We have the platform and the website. We also have the Facebook page and the LinkedIn group as well. And be kept up to date with everything by just registering. So there's a code here if you wanted to. Like I said, we record all of our conferences. So when you go on our platform, you'll see this one and all previous conferences there that you can refer to if you've missed any, and loads of resources. So join up and join us, okay? So I'm just going to look at today's agenda. I'm doing lots of talking, and by the way, you will be starting interacting in a minute, because I don't know if people who've been here before know that I don't let you get away with it. We've shifted around a little bit the order of the speakers, and I haven't had chance to change it, I'm afraid. So basically, we're going to start with Isabel is going to be our first speaker, and then Holly, and then we've got John, who I'm going to introduce you to a second, then we'll go on to Zwana, and then we'll have the discussion segment at the end, as on the conference. So I apologize, the agenda has been shifted slightly. So there are ways you can get involved with us and join in today. So like I say, you're not sitting there hiding behind no cameras either, because I'm going to make you turn your cameras on in a minute. So we encourage you to say hi in the chat function, introduce yourselves, any questions that you have put in there, or stick your hand up, because we will see you stick your hand up, and you can unmute yourself and actually speak too. We want you to participate. That's the whole point of this. And you can also share your comments on our social media. We are going live too for that. So please be part of it, participate. So our new co-host and my new partner in crime is John Wolf, who's just joining us as a new team member. And then we have some amazing speakers for you: Holly, Rizwana, Isabel, and Shelley, which you will introduce themselves later on. But I'm really excited that I've now got John as a partner in crime to help develop the school partnership. His role will be developing partnerships, networking, supporting everyone, and is a really great welcome to the team. And I think a lot of you will recognize this familiar face. John is going to be speaking to us later and running the chat with Shelley that we want to participate on. So I'm sure John will do more introducing of himself then, and I'll stop waffling. But welcome, John. So pleased to join the team. So like I said, it is interactive. So we have a poll. We want to hear from you. So the first question we're asking is, how well is cultural capital considered in your curriculum? So your options are: it is a priority in our school. We have curriculum and global dimensions, don't we? Cultural capital is considered, but it's not a priority. And cultural capital is not well addressed in our school. So I think, Hannah, are you okay to launch the poll? Because we would like you to join in and give us your opinion, because it was very interesting to hear from you. Have you managed to launch the poll? I can't see it when I'm sharing the screen.
Doesn't seem to be loading, so we might need to do it a bit later on.
Okay, well, have a think of the answers, because we'll come back to that. Does that mean the second poll won't work either, Hannah?
Yeah, no, it's not working.
Okay, apologies, but have a think about your answers anyway, because we would like to know when we can get this to work. The other poll was obviously, how often does your school deliver enrichment activities? Because that is where a lot of the sort of cultural things will tend to be. So do they regularly have enrichment activities? Occasionally, infrequently, or not at all? Is it just a once a year you do a token, enrichment activity? So it'd be very interesting to see how schools around the world address these aspects, not just in the UK where we have things. And again, like I say, I do this every conference. I'm going to give you 2 minutes, or not even 2 minutes, 2 seconds to turn your cameras on. I'm going to stop sharing. You're going to practice your smiles. Everyone's going to put their cameras on, and we're going to take a few photos as evidence that you're all here. Okay. So can we all, come on, cameras on. I can still see some people hiding. We want cameras on. You can practice your smiles. Hannah, and you know what? You're going to have to, you've got to practice what you preach, Hannah. We want to see you too. So everybody, we all got cameras on. No, I can still see some people with no cameras. There's no excuses. Practice your smiles. Let's see everybody. I'll give you a couple of minutes just to put your cameras on, practice your smiles. We're going to take a few screenshots. And it's so lovely to see all these faces. You can smile as well. I see you, Hilary, you're not smiling. Fantastic. Hannah, are you okay to take some screenshots? We're all smiling. 1, 2, 3, smile. I always have my mouth open and my eyes closed, so you need to practice this. Brilliant. Thank you so much for that. Are we okay, Hannah?
Yep, good. Got them.
Fantastic. Got you. Okay, brilliant. So let's carry on with the exciting events for this evening. So I have the wrong order. Like I said, the first speaker, I'm going to hand over to Isabel. So Isabel, are you okay to share the screen and introduce yourself?
Yes, I'll do that now.
I'll stop sharing.
So, oops. I should be able to see it.
Yep, thanks, Isabel.
Fantastic. Just make it, that's it. Okay, so quick introduction. So I've been teaching French and Spanish for quite a long time in England. I'm originally from France, from Toulouse. I noticed there's some people from the south of France from the chat. So hello to the south of France as well as everybody else in the world. Currently a member of the leadership team at the Macclesfield Academy in Cheshire. I'm really involved with the Association for Language Learning. I have been for many, many years, and a new linguist in the UK, in England. Please do join it. It's a brilliant association. And I often speak at conferences and training events, and I'm really, really interested in everything to do with cultural capital, obviously, and also evidence-informed teaching. I've just put a couple of handles here. I'm quite busy on Twitter as well, and I've just put a couple of ways for people to reach out on the slide. Right, so when we're talking about cultural capital, the big thing is always, what is it? Because it means so many things to so many different people, and I've kind of tried to give the different kind of versions of cultural capital and what we're looking at in schools. So it could be culture with a big C, culture with a small c. And it does depend who you ask. Originally, the term cultural capital that is also being used by Ofsted refers back to Pierre Bourdieu, the French sociologist. And this idea was that it was a way to explain how power in society was transferred and social classes maintained. So it's actually very political. And not me, people don't realize that at first. He's got those 3 different types of cultural capital that you can read for yourself: objective, embodied, and institutionalized. What I like to, when I talk to cultural capital in schools, I like to look at the version, if you want, that is on the right-hand side. For me, it's more about looking at belonging, social responsibility, empathy, tolerance, being inclusive. So it's actually possibly the opposite of that. So if we've got to be really mindful of what we mean by the title, whether we refer to Ofsted or not. As we get Ofsted, the way they kind of view it is the knowledge and the cultural capital that pupils need to succeed in life. Now you can see this is really, really quite narrow. It's also quite ethnocentric. What we think our people need to succeed in life might vary from country to country. It's very socially biased as well. It depends what background you come from. And I think it's really controversial. So when we're looking at how we are inspected in England and how our school inspections look at cultural capital, it's really, really, really quite narrow. And it's all about maybe culture with a big C with a certain angle. Whereas really, we all know that culture is so much more than that. And I always like to kind of play with a culture, the culture. It means completely different things to different people. And I think, in the classroom, it's really important to make sure we hit at the 3 different levels. So we make the pupils aware of culture with a big C. It does exist. We also look at, get them to look at, particularly, through my job as a language teacher, I really want them to look at different kind of aspects of life in the country that is linked with the language, and also the habits. So, for instance, how we organize life and how we kind of run our life in those different countries. What I really like to use as a go-to is the UNESCO Tangible and Intangible Cultural Site. It's really very thorough, and it's really good if you want to provide different examples to your students, because often I find you are really stuck with your own experiences, and that's being ethnocentric in itself. So for instance, when I'm looking at examples when I'm teaching, I'm trying to not just use France. I'm trying to use French-speaking countries to make them aware that France is spoken, all around the world. Same with Spanish, because otherwise we really depend on our experiences really, really quite a lot. And I try to include references to the tangible cultural heritage, things like art, buildings, monuments, by using visual, so to kind of drip feed the pupils with that exposure, and then also talk about traditions. So if you go on the site, it's so big. I've just given a couple of examples here. So for instance, for Spain, for tangible, when I looked at that, and I've been around Spain quite a few times, I'm from the south of France, so I have traveled around Spain a lot of these I'd never even heard of. So it's also about building our own knowledge so that we can kind of share that with our pupils. I also did this with other Spanish-speaking countries, and that was even more enlightening. For the intangible cultural heritage, even as a French person, it was fascinating to see, for instance, we teach about food on nearly all of the courses that we do. And to see that the gastronomic meal is actually part of the intangible heritage was a bit of an eye-opener for me. And exactly what does it mean? Does it mean the way we sit together at the table? Does it mean the way we have those repas de famille, big family meals that maybe they don't quite do the same in other countries? And it's them again to share this with pupils. And that is such a rich and underused resource. I can't really recommend it highly enough. And you can see here there's a lot of overlap with a lot of topics that we teach: music, festivals, hobbies, spare time. There's loads and loads of really, really useful. You can use the visuals and obviously the information. Also, more generally, there's all sorts of tools that I use. Music, I think all language teachers love using music, but it's so closely linked with the culture. It's really hard to share music without sharing the culture. It's so kind of linked with it. I love using poetry because obviously it's also an artistic way to feature the language. Literature, with a big L, with a small L, authentic text, and all sorts of online resources that kind of bring things alive. So I've put some examples here. Great music, it's authentic, and it's also great for French teachers because they have done some of the work for you in terms of preparing activities, and they're brilliant activities. So TV5 Monde is also a really, really good site. For Spanish, Profe de DL, great site as well, and they keep updating with new songs. So even though I do believe in showing a range of songs, and I sometimes deliberately show all the songs, same again to build up their cultural capital, it's nice also sometimes to mix and match. For literature, this is how I view literature in terms of building their cultural capital. So it's not just the canons of literature, it's all sorts of things, including jokes, because it's very, very cultural. Humor is probably the most cultural thing we can have. Rhymes and tongue twisters are also great to kind of develop pronunciations. There's lots of different ways we can weave that into our teaching. And for me, all this is definitely cultural. If you're talking about literature with a big L, also using link with music and art, like here you can just show it as a picture and then talk about Cervantes and explain why it is such an important author. Not necessarily go into all the details, or not necessarily getting them to completely engage with the text in Spanish, but to really see that this is part of the course. It's a really important reference. And there's all sorts of cartoons and other resources that are obviously linked with such an important bit of literature. I also like to use literature and translation when we have World Book Day. People always say, oh yeah, so they always kind of obviously go back to the books that they used to read as children. And I love to use Le Petit Prince because it's such a completely worldwide book. It's been translated into so many different languages. I can share that with my pupils in England, but I also make them realize that a lot of other people, and it's not just a children's book. I mean, everybody who's read it knows it's you can read it at every stage of your life and find something different in it. But it's not just French, it's completely worldwide. And that's also a nice way to get them to know about it and also develop their interest in translated books. Same with poetry. I love poetry, particularly to teach grammar. And I like to link it with photographs. I use, for instance, in French, I like to use Jacques Prévert a lot. And it's great to link it with photographs from Douaneau, which transport you to a different kind of area of France as well. It's not modern France. So there's also lots of way to kind of link with not just the culture, but the culture of the past as well, so that the children can understand that. It's a different world completely. I also like to challenge perceptions. There's lots of excellent materials out there challenging or what does it mean to be French? I've used this one really because it's really, it challenges all my pupils' perception in the way that it's a project that has been also involving parents. So all these children come from different nationalities. They all have what they have in common. They're all French. The parents come from different countries, and they explain what led them to live in France and what's been good and what's been difficult. So it's also a human experience. And I really always stress that understanding other people and culture is making you a better person and more inclusive. It's really important. Try to weave all things through, like what do they put, what's on telly, getting them to understand other things, linking it with geographies. It sounds difficult, but it's really easy. For instance, we're talking about cinema, so the kind of Spanish Oscars, if you want. Where do they? Oh, they're going to be in Seville in 2022. Oh, where's Seville? And that's when having everything kind of ready in your classroom maps, and you can point that is also really helpful. Then it's appalling the number of children who tells me that they don't know where they've been on holiday. So that we need to put a stop to that. So I say to them, you must know, ask. And I think when they realize that, yes, it is important to somebody, maybe they'll take more interest to what's around them as well. It's really important. I use the vacances scolaires also as a way to introduce the geography of France, because obviously the holidays are staggered in France for all sorts of reasons. That is also very cultural. It's not something we've got in this country or in other countries necessarily. So a bit of a recap. For me, building cultural capital in the languages classroom is all about really promoting culture with a big C, culture with a small c, embedding the cultural references in the schemes of learning, making the children realize that we're talking about real places and real people. So we don't make fun of it. We accept this as, the people as they are, the places as they are. We don't try to rank order them, say they're better or worse than where we live. They are different, and that's what makes them beautiful. We do not reinforce stereotypes. That sometimes can be a problem when people are trying to, particularly international days and things like that. Sometimes we do kind of lean towards stereotypes, and I always go, nope, I will not wear a stripy t-shirt on that day, sorry. And also to decolonize the curriculums, to not be mindful of the visuals we use in our lesson that do not kind of represent just a really narrow portion of the culture and what people are. And also teach about not just as I say, not just France for French, for all the other countries, and how people actually live there. I always say share the beauty of the countries and use a visual. That's when the UNESCO site is a fantastic resource. Also, when we make comparison with how we live, it's got to be factual, and it's got to be, as I say, we're not rank ordering, we're better than them or they're worse than us or these kind of thing. There are really a lot of things that we've got in common, and it's also important to insist on the points we have in common, and so that the differences are just beautiful things to kind of explore rather than weird things we're looking at, because for a lot of children, what's not in their kind of common immediate kind of space often appears strange. It's also, I think, developing cultural capital is a question of social justice. A lot of children struggle with some of the topic in languages because it refers, particularly for exams, to experience they may not have had. So when we're looking at disadvantaged students, for instance, when we're talking about hobbies, there might be hobbies they've never come across. So it's really important to present it from something that exists, that what it is, and also that is also linked with the culture of the country. For instance, ski in France is quite different to ski in England. There are lots of different connotation attached to the sport, and the exposure that children may have to that sport is very different in different countries. And I really think that's the best way to tackle disadvantage. Show them what's out there, give them, really plant the seed that they really must try to kind of look and see what's there. Travel is optional, travel is great, and we know we've all missed travel in COVID, and I mean, everybody says that, and as much as we can, yes, let's get those children out there, but they've got to realize that sometimes if they're better prepared before they start traveling, if they engage with the culture before they start traveling, they will get so much more out of the actual experience. And that's, oops, sorry, I just clicked on the NALA report. It's a brilliant report, really, really interesting, but it's not what I meant to do. And I'm going back. You still with me? Can you see it? Oops.
It's fine. Yeah, it hasn't come up on our screen. It's okay at the moment.
I'm now stuck in Zoom. I just clicked on the wrong thing, and it's my last. I think it was my last slide. Yeah, it was my last slide. I was just back to where I was. Yeah,
you are.
That's it, and that's me.
Thank you so much, Isabel. That's a great one. Like I say, I know you haven't got a lot of time to stay with us, so I can say there aren't actually any pertinent questions at the moment in the chat. Don't forget, guys, if you want to ask them anything, you can put something in the chat. But thank you so much, Isabel, for that. If you'd like to unshare, I'm going to ask Holly.
I will unshare.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Holly,
you.
would you like to share and introduce yourself now? Thank you. Thank you very much, Isabel.
Thank you, Isabel. Follow that, hey?
Go for it, Holly.
I'm coming from a completely different perspective. Because, well, not a completely different perspective, obviously I'm still talking about culture, but I am talking more from a performing arts background. Are you sure you wish to close Sims? Yes, because nobody wants to see my register. Can you all see it? Is it sharing?
Yes, that's fine. Thank you. If you want to put it in presentation mode, that's fine.
Okay. There we go. Have you got it?
Yes, that's it.
Great. Okay, so let's get started. So a little bit about me. As I just said, a bit different because I come from an arts background. So I'm currently, I've just started my post at Radnor House in Sevenoaks, which is in West Kent, so not too far from London. I'm a director of performing arts here, where I lead with a whole school responsibility for music and drama from the early years, as in like age 2, all the way until they're 18. I teach 11-year-olds to 18-year-olds, but I obviously line manage colleagues that cater for the whole age range. I've moved into the independent sector for the first time, so the fee-paying education system, and I've always worked in state education before then. So the last 29 days has been a huge shift for me culturally. So as a drama specialist teacher, there are lots of things that, as Isabel was talking, I was thinking, yeah, I just do those things innately. I didn't even realize actually that those things I teach and those things I do actually adds to their culture and their cultural capital and things that are happening to them while they're in a drama setting. So there's things about me on that slide. I don't need to read it all out. I'm sure you'll get sent presentations and things. You can read them if you want to. Classic drama teacher thing to say. You can read about me if you want to later. So I'm starting really about building cultural capital and how we build a cultural capital. And I think the first thing with anything that you do is obviously defining it. The speakers that are here today, we were talking before we started about how difficult it is to define cultural capital and how actually in a lot of settings it's being misinterpreted, and schools are sort of doing their own thing. And certainly within English education system, British education system, that happens a lot. I've been teaching for 14 years, and I know when I first started, there was a big drive around something to do with PELTs, personal learning and thinking skills. And then that sort of phased away, but there was a lot of people, once again, trying to deliver what they thought that meant. Obviously, all very well intentioned, but then what becomes difficult is you haven't got comparity of obviously how that's being delivered. So you can see what I've put on the slide there. So it could be explained as an indicator of how well an individual is able to succeed academically and engage in wider society. But again, as Isabel alluded to, we reference and we work with Ofsted as our framework. And in September 2019, Ofsted created a new inspection framework that would require schools to look at and develop their students' cultural capital, which of course we have the issue around the definition. As a drama teacher, this became sort of, no pun intended, music to our ears, because there was a that there has been for years an issue around the fact that drama is not a national curriculum subject. It doesn't get the clout that is needed. It's not seen as a subject in its own right in certain settings. So the idea of having this aspect of cultural capital from a drama teacher's perspective and the arts, it kind of, you know, I'm trying to not use phrases that we use now that we're in a culture here with lots of different sayings that floats our boat, and I'm just like, no, might not use that around the world. Try and think about what you're saying, Holly. But you know, we were all very keen to have that from our perspective, because it gave a real drive behind an inspection that really focused on what we were doing within the arts. And although all arts teachers value what we do, of course we do, and a lot of people do, it then of course gave it a section within an Ofsted that gave us the clout that we would want. So whether and I've given there about inspectors considering whether the work of the school in general enhances many aspects, the spiritual, moral, social, but obviously the cultural development, and whether it's of high quality. And of course, that's for all pupils. And you can see from the graphic that I've put there with the students trying to climb over this huge wall. And if you have some cultural capital and you are able to engage in different settings, in different areas, different walks of life, and you've got that, you've already got a springboard, which some of your peers may not. And again, I've used another graphic which kind of adds to what I'm saying. And I'll leave you to have a look at that in a little bit more detail while I explain what I've written on the right-hand side. So my belief, and obviously a lot of what I'm talking about is kind of my own experiences and what's happened within my role, and specifically as an arts teacher, is that access to the culture and access to an understanding of different things to shape your world and the world you understand must start where all will access it, regardless of where you might live, what your social background is, what your parents or your carers' interests are, what your financial background is, and the type of school that you attend. Now, I realise I'm talking to people from all over the world, and I've written that with a very British thing in my head. And as a person who has been educated in Britain and has got married here, had children here, but often within drama teaching, and you know, this is going to be the same in anywhere in the world though, if where I am now teaching in West Kent, I can have access to the theatre very easily. However, when I was a child, I didn't. I grew up in Herefordshire, which is on the Welsh borders, and I could go to the theatre, of course I could, but I couldn't go to London at the drop of a hat. I couldn't go and watch it. You know, that had to be a planned thing. It would be a whole day, a weekend. And I'm giving that as a kind of example because a lot of people just assume that it's about whether if you've got the money, then you can go. But actually, sometimes it can be about your location. And whether you can actually physically go and access those things, and how long that may take you. And often when you talk to young people or anybody, the interest that they have formed and what they have then obviously shaped their life as they've gone into adulthood has come from their parents and the things that they have been exposed to. So the reason I say about access to culture must start where they all have access. When they're in a drama classroom, it doesn't really matter if their mum and dad don't go to the theatre because they're in your drama classroom. If they don't go to art galleries, but they're in their art lesson, that's where they're getting that exposure. I found this particularly shocking when I saw this quote about the fact that almost 1 in 5 children in England between the ages of 5 and 8 do not have access to books at home. That just blew my mind. And again, that is, to go back to the picture, those children are not having that little bolster of that cultural capital through the literature that they may be reading, or because of where they might live, they're not able to access things as easily. So my point around access to culture must start where all will access it, regardless of where they live, their social background, or their parents, their carers' interests, I think is really important. And that, of course, must start within the curriculum. I'm actually going to jump forward and then come back to that. What you can see there on the right-hand side is the curriculum map that I had when I worked before this job, because I've only been here 29 days, so give me a chance to put a curriculum map together. That's the curriculum journey that we took students on from year 7 all the way through. Now, for those of you that are international, you'll realize that I worked in an IB World School, because you can see there I've got the NYP program and an IBDP that's being delivered. So I've become much more aware of an international education system and the strengths that come with that, and the fact that you, through those qualifications and those courses, you have to give students exposure to other things outside of their world. So that's where I'm talking about, no matter what background those children had, no matter what interest their parents had, they went on a journey over those 7 years that gave them a diet of various things. And we did look at decolonizing the curriculum, trying not to just teach plays and things that came from British culture. Okay, so building a cultural capital to develop global citizenship is what we are all here to talk about. So I'm on to the building section and kind of what I've done. And yeah, so as part of making the judgment about the quality of education with an inspection, the inspectors tend to consider the extent to which schools are equipping pupils with knowledge and cultural capital, because they want to see them succeed in life. And this was something that Isabel had in her PowerPoint about the essential knowledge that pupils need to be educated citizens, and introducing them to the best. Now, I'm going to pick up on this point of where they phrase the best, because, you know, that is a very subjective term. I'm quite used to that, being a drama teacher. But to really to have something within a framework where you're going to judge someone, I think is very difficult when you have to define what is the best. I'm sure I'm not going to do it, but I'm sure if I opened up the chat function, and well, we have got the chat function, but I'm sure if I asked the question, who's the best footballer in the world, there might be some duplicates, but not everybody necessarily is going to say Ronaldo, Messi. You know, there again, you know, we've got two options there. So it's hard, because that definition that's being used to introduce people to the best of something, again, it comes down to that person who's delivering its view on what is the best. So what determines the best? Like I said, it's subjective. But of course, art, dance, drama, music, those subjects in their very nature are subjective. Yes, there's certain things that are factually accurate about when you were delivering the subject, but our opinions on, you know, who's the best sports person on the field, like I just said, all of us here, we all go to the theatre. Not everybody's going to give that performance a 5-star review. There's going to be certain things that some of us are going to enjoy more than others. So that's quite challenging. And cultural capital is hard to measure. That is a hard thing to look at, and what some people perceive as important to define cultural capital and others might not. I have put a quote on there from the UNESCO with the Convention on the Rights of the Child, saying that rest, play, culture, arts, every child has the right to rest, relax, play, and to take part in cultural and creative activities. And I don't imagine there will be anybody here today that would dispute otherwise. But it is amazing, particularly in England, where we look at curriculum reform and we look at changes that have happened, the number of changes that have happened that have reformed qualifications and reformed curriculum delivery that has meant that some children do not get the right to creative activities and, you know, the cultural exposure that comes with that. I assume, Tony, that this PowerPoint will go out, or it can be shared. Great, okay. So you'll be able to click on the link here. I've just done a screenshot of what this link sends you to, which is about the social division that happens, the increasing social division with going to the theatre. And it, like I say, obviously it's my thing, so something that I focus on. There are English theatres have expressed their concern about the increasing difficulty in being able to reach state schools and state school pupils being able to go and have that exposure to the theatre. And that goes back to that comment of, you know, financial support and the type of school that they attend. You don't have the equity of everybody having that access when there are other pressures put on the state education system, where they will not necessarily prioritise needing to go to the theatre or going to a concert or seeing the opera or the ballet, because they must go to their additional maths session. I'm using maths, I mean, it could be anything. And that is a concern, because, as I also say, you know, if the parents' interest isn't that, then we're going to have young people growing up and going into adulthood possibly never having gone to the theatre. And what we've also got is a culture of, laughing every time I say the word now, of older generations who had to go to the theatre in a shirt and tie. There were certain people that went to the theatre and certain people that didn't. And that's not the case now. You know, the theatre is for everybody. Everybody shows. I think it was probably always for everybody, but there was only certain clientele that went. And even in my grand age of 36, it shocked me when I first started teaching 14 years ago that some children, when I would say, I've booked the theatre, we're going, they would say, oh, we don't do that sort of thing. Sorry. Because they had those preconceived ideas. And the number of children, when they would go into the theatre, would say, where is the screen? And of course, they were imagining they were at cinema. But like I say, these things, I haven't even put this in my PowerPoint because I kind of took them for granted. They're just things I have done and I've exposed young people to, because to me, that is natural. Maybe natural is not the right word. So developing the cultural citizenship. So this is a screenshot on the right-hand side of the Skinner's Kent Academy website. This is what I wrote when I was in post. I hope it's still there. They might have changed it. This is obviously to tell parents, prospective families, and obviously Ofsted when they say they're going to come, and they come and look and they read everything on the website and everything else, and also obviously just to share our viewpoint on what we do. So we talk about where they'll find cultural capital beyond the taught curriculum, and I think really if there's anything to take away from what I'm saying with my element of the presentation is that final bullet point which I've boxed off, which is that our intention, or their intention when I was there, is that the cultural capital is woven through everything that we do rather than it being a separate aspect to our young people's education. And I think that is one of the big differences, and one of the big issues is that a lot of schools feel they need to bolt cultural capital on rather than realizing that actually through a rich curriculum that's really considered it's considered its diversity, it's thought about lots of different cultures, it's brought all those things through. Essentially, that's, like I said, where you will get the buy-in and you will get that exposure for all, not necessarily the children who have to get a school bus and therefore can't come to your after-school drama club, because again, you've excluded some children that would want that access that can't. So the curriculum is the most important thing, because the taught curriculum is where they're going to start to get that exposure. So the quote that I've put there about whether leaders are suitably ambitious for all children and consider their cultural capital when preparing them for the next stage in their education is the quote from Ofsted. Sorry, that's not the quote from Ofsted, that's the quote from our Ofsted report. Leaders are suitably ambitious for all children and consider their cultural capital when preparing for the next stage in their education. That was what they said about us. We were inspected in February, and our curriculum that we delivered, I would say, was ambitious for all of our children, and we did consider their cultural capital and prepared them for the next stage of their education. I do like the tweet that I've shared there, as well as the screenshot. The inspectors are inspecting cultural capital. Sorry, inspectors aren't inspecting cultural capital. They're looking at whether the school provides a rich and broad curriculum, and a great curriculum builds cultural capital. And that comment on rich and broad, again, is what kind of is music to the ears of drama teachers, because we were at a point a few years ago where schools weren't having that rich and broad curriculum. They were very quickly trying to remove things like drama, music, because it didn't have to happen and as dictated to as much as other subjects did. So it was a quick win, and then they could do other things within the curriculum time. But of course, in doing that, like it says, it's not creating that rich and broad curriculum. And the arts, it crucified us. So where I went to earlier. So inspectors evaluate the effectiveness of the school's provision. As we said earlier, there's a broad concept that can be seen across the school's activities, but draws together many of the areas covered through the personal development judgment. So when I put our information together on a website, so I'm obviously presenting to you about what I have done, we did talk about a range of trips that we offer. We did talk about the nature of our visits and excursions, guest speakers, assembly content. We do all of those things, which some people think is cultural capital, but we don't do those things only. Those things are in addition to what we do through a taught curriculum. And in doing that, those aspects cover the personal development judgment as well as what's taught within our syllabus and our curriculums. We were exceptionally ambitious about what pupils will learn, not only academically, and we mapped out a programme over the 7 years of schooling to develop character and turn out well-rounded students by the end of year 13. And that mapping out that 7 years, you can see on the right-hand side, sort of journey that we took students on. And we tried not to think about it's an option subject, so it stops at this point, or they might not want to take it post year 11. We looked at a full journey. We thought about what do they need when they get to this point, and then we worked back to build that curriculum and not just say, oh, well, half of them won't take it at this point, half of them won't take it, because, you know, we can't put a cap on what somebody may or may not do when they're only 11. If that makes sense. So I've got some further reading and some suggested actions. So again, it's just things that I've done. So following subject associations and cultural organisations that support the cultural capital agenda. Again, feel really, really British. I've put all these things on here to do with events that are happening here. However, everything that I have linked to, it's actually all online. So I haven't put anything that you have to travel to within this country. I think connecting with ArtsMark and engaging with doing Arts Award is a really good way of looking at the arts in a broad context. A lot of people get ArtsMark and Arts Award confused. ArtsMark is the measure of how well a school is delivering their arts provision, and Arts Award is an award, a certificate for young people that are engaging in an arts activity. You can look at your bridge for your area if you're based in England, that Arts Council England set up, and they offer various sessions and resources to support you. There's an example there of one that's running next week in North Kent. Considering your governors and your trustees are a very important part of obviously what shapes the direction of a school. What do they need to know to ensure that your cultural capital is front and centre? There's an event being run, the Governance for Cultural Education Partnership, that's being run in a couple of weeks' time. So that could be quite helpful if you work in a setting, or indeed you are a governor, and that's something you would like to engage with. You can probably get a lot of information out of there. I've linked to obviously GSA's cultural capital improvement plan that's coming up. There's a little link that you can click to that, so you can engage with that. And I've shared the True Education Partnerships blog post about building cultural capital in schools. What is it? Why is it important? So there's some further reading things that you can do there. I've put some podcasts and some wider understanding that people may want. Again, I've done this from an arts perspective. So there's the ArtEd Radio, which is a podcast for art teachers, Advocating for Arts Education for music teachers, and then Open Drama UK, which is a networking organisation for drama teachers and theatre educators. They have a monthly podcast which talks about various aspects of drama and theatre education. And then the last link that's on there is a link to the Thinking Deeply About Primary Education podcast, where in this particular episode with that link, they talk about a traditionalist approach and having to deliver the performing arts across primary education. Now, I'm not a primary specialist, I'm secondary, but it was fascinating to listen to as a subject specialist, not having to consider like a primary teacher delivering a lot across an age range. It was really interesting to listen to their viewpoints on what they do with the performing arts. I thought it would, I don't know if it's quite my place to do this, maybe it would come at the end from Tony, but I just wanted to signpost to some upcoming cultural related events. I think Isabel actually talked about DIALS, but the Developing Students' Dialogue Skills and Cultural Literacy event coming up in a couple of weeks. Next week, these are all online. The times that are on there are British summertime, but you know, anyone can engage with them. The Inspiring Creativity in Early Years Settings, and the Secondaries Culture Meet for it's Nottinghamshire, but that doesn't mean that you can't go and join the conversation and listen to what they're doing to create a cultural rucksack. And then Cultural Change in a Changing World, which is in a few weeks' time. My Twitter handle is on there. I'm really pleased to sit here and see Shelley, because we've definitely tweeted each other a few times. And I was like, oh, it's a real person that I know. So if you want to follow me on Twitter, please do. If there's any questions, I haven't looked at the chat, obviously, but I'm hoping that once this is shared and the links that are on there, some of the waffle that I've said might make a little bit more sense. So thank you. Thanks for having me. And I hope that what I've said is helpful in some way.
Thank you very much, Holly. Thank you for that. No, it was amazing as well. I was having a quick look in the chat, and I think some of the points that were brought up there weren't actually necessarily relevant to your conversation. But what I know Rachel was asking about where she could find information about decolonizing the curriculum that's been brought up in both your speeches. So I don't know if you did have any signposting. I know other members have actually shared some links for her on there, but did you have anywhere in particular you went for decolonizing the curriculum?
This book is brilliant, about a little guide for teachers, diversity in schools. I can pop the link in the chat. I found that really useful. From a drama specific point of view, the Open Drama UK website has a whole resource on picking plays that make you think about decolonizing your curriculum and not just teaching the same old. So I can share a link to that as well. I'm not so good about all the other subjects, but that's much broader. That little book's about kind of looking at diversity in schools. The Diverse Educators website is really helpful. I can put a link, I'll put it in the chat.
Thank you. That's amazing. Thank you for your help again. And we also had a question about poverty proofing, which I think has been explained in the chat as well. But it's also the fact that in the curriculum means it is poverty proofed because it is being delivered to them all. They don't have to have enough money to afford to do the trips or the extras, which is fantastic. Thank you very much, Holly, for your input. And as you apparently we can have we're going to give you a light break, as in we can now do the polls. You're right to if I share again. We can actually have a look at the polls that we missed earlier because they're now working. So I'm going to wake everybody up and have you to get involved. So I think the first one of our polls, did we say this is the first one? How is that right, Hannah? It's the one, how well is cultural capital considered in your curriculum? Now we're more aware of what it is. Maybe we can answer these polls a bit better too. So cultural capital is a priority in our school. So it's within the curriculum and global dimensions. Cultural capital is considered, not a priority, and cultural capital is just not well addressed in our schools. So those are the options. And I think Hannah's going to open the poll for you now, if you'd like to all share your opinions. Is that okay, Hannah? Can you open the poll?
Yep, I'll vote him.
Fantastic. I can't see it because I'm sharing the screen. I apologize. If you could share the results as well, that would be handy. Give them a few minutes. So everybody have a go at answering those for me. Thank you. Is there no way I can see it, Hannah? I don't know. I wondered, it's odd that because I'm sharing as a host, I can't see what everyone's doing, which is frustrating. Hopefully I can see the results, or you can share them with me and everybody else.
Can you see the results now?
I can't actually. Can anyone else see it on my screen? I can't see it on the share screen.
Maybe stop sharing.
I'll stop sharing. That I mean we can all see the results. I still can't see them. Can you tell me what the results was? Would that help?
So 49% say that it is a priority, 47% say it's considered but not a priority, and 5% say it's not well addressed.
Well, at least that it is getting out there, isn't there? There is an awareness, which is a good thing. So that's definitely working. But again, it's a definition, isn't it? We're down to definitions. So enrichment activities, does that count as cultural capital? And whenever we think of enrichment, these are the bolt-on add-ons, I think, aren't they? That schools seem to think, oh yes, I'm ticking the box for cultural capital. They're going on a trip next week. You know what I mean? It's not woven within the curriculum. So another poll for you. Now that it's working, let's get this one done too. So again, how often does your school deliver enrichment activities? So do they regularly do that? You know, often and repeated, only occasionally, very infrequently, or not at all? Okay, I think the poll should be launched for that. I'll give you a few minutes to vote, because again, I can't see. We got results. Are you able to share results for that, Hannah, or are people still voting?
So 65% say regularly and 35% say occasionally.
Wow, and nobody did the other two. Okay, brilliant. Well, that's good. I think hopefully schools are getting there. Fabulous. So I'm going to move on and introduce John, who I think we've all been waiting for as our new team member. Welcome, John. Are you okay to share and introduce yourself?
Hi, Tony. Hi, everyone. Hannah, if you could very kindly share.
Oh, yes, Hannah, you're doing this. Sorry.
Got it, then. Great to be part of the Global School Alliance family. Big thanks to Tony and to Hannah. Great presentations. Big thanks to my fellow speakers, Isabel, Holly and Rizwana. Really fantastic. And I've noticed there's many old friends that are joining us. Hello, Alison, Colette, Fetty, Tatiana. It's a really brilliant family, and I think the Global School Alliance is wonderful, and looking forward to working more with you all. Now, for our purposes, we would say, and I think our previous speakers alluded to it, about the challenges often of describing just what is cultural capital. But for us, it underpins every school everywhere. A big thank you to educators. We always say you are the most important people in the world, that you're actually ensuring that young people do have the skills, knowledge and experience to function in what can be a very complex environment. Thanks, Hannah. And that's certainly what the Global School Alliance is there to support, building those connections, building understanding and trust. That ultimately it's all about educators learning together. And I think that definition being that essential knowledge that young people need to be fully educated citizens underpins all of the international work that we want to support. And certainly cultural capital that's created by international experiences arms young people with the experiences and narratives to help them then access training, employment, or their HE and FE journeys as well. So certainly what underpins all of our work at the Alliance is learning about and interacting with those other areas of the world to give them that knowledge and to give them those experiences. Okay, thanks, Hannah. And basically the word authentic, we hear a lot, but about the importance of those authentic experiences, and it was amazing to hear from Holly's previous presentation about the challenges of often young people having those experiences. So again, we want to become almost a right that young people have those experiences and to build up international connections. We're very fortunate in the UK. We've always been a nation of exchange where ideas and experience have underpinned all of these activities. And we also talk about the great conversation of humankind, that it's incredibly important that educators and young people and schools share in that great conversation, sharing culture, sharing connections. So in terms of having those important real world experiences, the importance of cultural immersion, it was great to have Isabel talk about the importance of languages, that global curriculum, again, that the Alliance is there to support learning from each other, sharing best practice and celebrating that learning is incredibly important. And challenging the stereotypes. Again, I think we're all aware that this isn't just about going on the website or looking for something basic, but really getting under the skin of a country, learning about different people and actually what brings us together. So much more important to look for those things that bring us together rather than looking for differences and problems that may keep us apart, because ultimately it's all about learning about activities, learning about parts of the world that are outside the experience of many young people. Thanks, Hannah. And again, schools are at the heart of this. A big thank you to all you do every day in your schools, in your communities, to develop that global mindset. And again, we would stress that this a range of cultural capital activities just have a range of benefits. It's not just for the school or the young people, but we always say that schools are the hub of fantastic work. So in terms of those benefits for the young people, having that authentic engagement, it really adds relevance and dynamism to learning. Nothing beats learning firsthand from colleagues overseas. Benefits for educators. And again, it's very important that educators are part of that global alliance, learning about what can be challenging development issues, ensuring that the sustainable development goals are writ large in the school, learning about different religions and culture, and that first-hand knowledge of countries. Obviously, we're talking about Ofsted in many ways today, but schools have a range of objectives, working with parents, the wider community, a range of inspection bodies. And certainly having that innovative cultural work at the heart of the school ethos meets a whole range of wider objectives. And certainly it's fantastic to share and celebrate this work. And again, a big thanks to parents and carers and local authority contacts and businesses. Schools now more than ever need to have that global outlook and ensuring that they're working in partnership with a whole range of organisations is really important as well. And again, we would stress having access to international and intercultural skills improves life chances of young people. It helps support their confidence and interpersonal skills. And we would stress we've developed these six key skills here. They must explore, experience and understand and contribute, not only for themselves, but for the wider community. And again, cultural capital is at the heart of everything from critical thinking, the importance of collaborative activity, creativity and imagination. It was great. I was at Leeds train station earlier today, where 13 schools from across Leeds are doing an arts project, reimagining history, and they've created art globes. And it's fantastic. It's we'll put it in the chat, Leeds inspired, and it's brought together a whole range of schools in Leeds and across the globe to reimagine what it could be to collaborate. So some really fantastic work going on there. The importance of digital literacy, obviously, great to have a whole range of online support there. And the key importance of personal development that underpins all of this. This brings together all of the fantastic work you're doing every day in your schools. And our global citizen, we hear a lot about what a global citizen is. So we actually asked educators in 55 countries, what does it mean to be a culturally aware young person? What are the skills and attributes? And what was really interesting is these were the 27 top responses. What came top was that young people thought and acted as global citizens, and also the importance of languages, that they were multilingual. But what was very interesting is, again, a big thanks to everyone in the Alliance, how much we share in that commitment to young people, that they're confident, they develop self-esteem, their intellectual curiosity, being independent, willing to have a go, a whole range of life skills that are supported when young people learn outside of what can be their daily experiences, when the globe becomes what they can learn from in that first-hand way. So again, really powerful work that's going on every day in schools. And that's why we would say, ultimately, a global citizen makes that positive contribution to creating a better world, aware of their responsibilities, awareness of the wider world, respecting diversity, acting upon social injustice, and really contributing to local and global communities, which is at the heart also of the Sustainable Development Goals. Thanks, Hannah. So again, a fantastic range of work that's going on. We actually spoke to a range of teaching organisations globally as well. And what came through as well about the importance of the transformational nature of much of your cultural capital work was that shared focus for learning, a whole range of really important feedback here. And we thought we had to share this. There are no passengers on planet Earth, we're all crew. And I think that shared focus for learning is even more important now, that young people need to be encouraged to better understand each other, to actually gain the skills and knowledge about a greater awareness of the world and their ability to work with a whole range of different people. We would never call these soft skills, but certainly languages and empathy and learning from each other are incredibly important. And what came through very strongly, again, a big thanks, is all your support for the Sustainable Development Goals. And I know many colleagues on the call are doing some incredibly important work around climate change. And again, that shared responsibility that we all have for the planet. So thank you. And some research, I think we're all aware of the importance of ensuring that young people have access to international opportunities. 94% of UK teachers feeling that schools should be preparing students to be dealing with that fast changing and globalized world. And interestingly, that relationship we have with UK businesses, now more than ever, young people need to think globally. Knowledge and awareness of the wider world being more important to employers than a class of degree. Again, some really interesting research and stats there that really supports the great work that you're doing. And that 78% of students thinking it's important that schools help them understand what we can do to make the world a better place. All of this is brought together again in that great conversation of humankind that educators and schools are central to. Thank you, Hannah. And our global tree, again, those important life skills that the young people are developing and being confident, curious, resilient, enterprising, compassionate, and principled young people, developing a whole range of lifelong skills there, their functional research, thinking, social and learning skills. All of these can be supported by a whole range of cultural capital projects. Proud to be working with the Global School Alliance. We'll get many, many, many more examples of what schools can do. It really is that nation of exchange, this alliance of exchange. So we put some ideas there of schools that have been involved in international work, developing, being successful learners, confident individuals and responsible citizens. And again, a great part of working with the Global School Alliance, it truly is a global alliance of sharing and supporting and embedding some fantastic cultural capital work. Thank you, Anna. So let's stay in touch. This was my first webinar with the Global School Alliance. Fantastic to be part of this wonderful family, and let's all stay in touch. And I very much want to work and meet many of you more, and many, many thanks for your fantastic support.
Thank you, John. I say people are going to see a lot more of you, aren't they, in the future? That's wonderful. Thank you for that input. So Rizwana, thank you so much for being patient and being our last official speaker. Are you okay to share screen and introduce yourself?
I am. I'm going to give it a try.
Thank you.
Okay, can everybody see that?
Yes, thank you.
Brilliant. Hello, everyone, colleagues across the globe. I'm Rizwana Ahmed. I'm a head teacher in the Borough of Kirklees in West Yorkshire in England. My role in education is multifaceted. I am a researcher, writer, and a contributor to system leadership in both in England and on an international level. Bit of a geek when it comes to the curriculum. And that's what I'm going to talk to you about in practice, what it looks like in my school. So I see this more as a case study, really. I won't be quoting theory to you. I'll tell you what it's like in real life in a deprived school. So the head of Carlton's Union Infant School, the context of my school is it is a typical Victorian building founded in 1912. And the area that we serve is a highly deprived area. We have all sorts of issues here that are barriers to learning. As soon as the children join us, we have to deal with the families and the emotional baggage that the children bring with us. We have 17 different languages spoken in our school. and our special educational needs is broadly average, but we have seen an increase since COVID. Pupil premium and preschool meals are broadly average, but again, this is increasing since COVID and the loss of jobs, etc. As I've already mentioned, the key barriers are mental health, unemployment, poverty, and substance misuse, which is also on the rise. We were once considered a stuck school. When I joined the school, we were considered a stuck school, one of those schools that is below the floor targets, and it was really under the radar for being closed and merged with another school. But over the last 10 years, we've had a dramatic transformation. That's because we absolutely took our curriculum to bits, the professional development of staff, and really got to know our community and our children and aligned everything for our learners. So there's not much writing on my slides, but I'm going to talk to you about how we developed a curriculum for all. So our curriculum is about responsibility. It's all about responsibility for learning, for the teachers, for the parents, the governors, and most of all, the children. And it's a curriculum for all. It's a no excuse curriculum. It rests on 3 pillars: self, others, and the wider world. So we've really set about, and every year our curriculum statement changes. Our teaching and learning policy changes as the needs of our learners change. And we are now a teaching school. We are a strategic partner under the Kirklees and Colville Teaching School. So from a school that was considered stuck, we need to close the school because we can't move it, we are now the pioneers in many aspects of learning in a community like this, and we are training new educators and leaders and inspiring others into this profession. And just as I'm talking today, we've just finished a curriculum in action day for one of the teaching colleges. So how do we do it then? Well, again, I'm just going to echo everything that Isabel, Holly, and John have said. I absolutely agree with you. You know, all the key points that you've made about, you know, the global citizens, the decolonization of the curriculum, that was a first and foremost. So for us, you know, it was really important to understand the context of our learners. What experiences do they bring to the school right from the reception age? What do they bring with them? There's no point giving them a framework that's not going to fit their needs. So we start with them and we work outwards. And that means understanding their emotions, understanding the Maslow hierarchy, understanding our role as educators, what we can bring in terms of academia, in terms of nurture, in terms of care, and working with those families at their level, understanding the whole child. And then when I say to you working outwards, yes, we've got the core curriculum. Yes, they need to learn to read, write, communicate, absolutely. But they also need nurture. They also need to understand themselves as individuals. So that was really important. So I invested a lot of money in developing the pastoral team and developing opportunities for learning the basic skills beyond the school gates. And giving these children, the other children, when I joined the school, other you know, staff had said it was everywhere. You know, this sentence was floating around everywhere. These children can't do. These children are EAL. These children, oh gosh, they won't even know what that means. We can't expect them to write about that. But you have a responsibility. So this is what we set about doing. Those experiences beyond the school gates. A child from a deprived area, no, of course his parents not going to take them horse riding. Of course they're not, but what can we do? Taking them to, you know, to the RAF museum, getting them to do kayaking, international trips, taking them to theatre, as somebody mentioned earlier, You know, these kind of experiences, wider experiences, they build the language, they build the cultural capital, they build the confidence, they build the resilience and the wider understanding. And that's what it was for us. And alongside all of that, we've been raising the standards once again. You know, we've sustained #1 in the borough, and we are in the top 1 to 3% of high performing schools in England with reading, writing and maths. And it can be done. It's just that commitment and that dedication and that knowledge of your learners. So you can see here from this last slide, spreading our wings internationally. And our children do have e-pals. We regularly visit Amsterdam, France. You can see here this last picture here, where we've just unveiled a cultural art piece representing all the cultures in Kirklees. The children, the parents, the governors and local businesses have actually put this together with artists. And when it was unveiled, it gave us more opportunities. This was a project called Horizons, and it's all about moving from A to B. Some of our children had never travelled on trains, and we set about you know, looking at this project, and we're moving now to Bradford and Manchester, and we'll be installing pieces there as well. But the travel experiences and the understanding that this is giving the children is absolutely second to none. And so this is my case study of our children. If you were ever to meet our learners, and you can actually see them in action on our Twitter handle. This is my last slide here. Please do, I encourage you all, go on our website, have a look at our galleries, follow our Twitter handle. We're always doing something, and Tony knows this. So I don't know, you're an avid follower, aren't you? So, you know, it's absolutely building, continuing, exploring. And I agree, John, is that global understanding. And we have a responsibility to education. We have a responsibility to our children, wherever we are in the world, whether it's Ofsted or whatever, you know, that's second. It's the learners, it's the people that we're dealing with. It's our world that we're creating for tomorrow. And I'd like to end there. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Rizwana. And like I said, some fantastic practical ideas of how you can change a school. Just turn it around so amazingly. And like you are an inspiration. So thank you so much for giving us your time today. Wonderful. So what we're planning on next actually is the round table. So we're going to have a session now where John and Shelley are going to, well, Shelley's going to answer some questions of John. I think John's going to grill Shelley, but through a series of questions. But again, please be involved. Put your hands up or put the questions in the chat if you have questions for them. I'm actually going to stop sharing so that John can take over. But I have actually noticed, John, there is a question in the chat already from Oigoga, sorry. It's a bit of a long one, so I don't know if you've read this. It says, can you share some data that evidenced how learners have successfully demonstrated the competencies and dispositions expected of a global citizen after engaging with Global Schools Alliance learning experience under graduating from school? That is a big question. Any ideas, John, how you want to answer that?
It's really important, and thanks for that. One of the most exciting things that is happening with the Global School Alliance is the Internationalism Alliance. But I know we spoke about a couple of weeks ago as well. Lots of research, and we'll put this in the chat and we'll do it in follow-up as well. Lots of research that demonstrates that young people who have the skills, knowledge and experience, they are doing better at school. Certainly, we would argue that those schools, and it was great to hear from 3 wonderful schools, if they have internationalism at the heart of the school, ensuring that young people are having access to these experiences, it does have positive impact on results, on motivation, on recruitment, on retention. A whole range of important issues are supported by international experience. So great question, David, and we'll share the research with you. Certainly the Internationalism Alliance activity, and also we are part of the wider, I don't know if you can see this, the wider all-party parliamentary group that values international experience, skills and connections for young people in the UK. So we'll certainly share this research with the Alliance.
No, it's not quite visible, I don't think, John, but yeah.
That's fine.
Fantastic.
It is
Yeah,
here.
it's because your background's blurred, but yes, we will share that. Thank you. So would you like to start your chat with Shelley?
So thank you. Yeah, as we
highlight.
said, some really fantastic presentations there, and we're actually very delighted to have with us Shelley Cousins. Shelley is head of cultural capital at Kingsmead School down in beautiful Somerset in the southwest of England. And what was lovely about Kingsmead School, Shelley, is your motto, I noticed that, which seemed to capture the essence of cultural capital, achieving through caring. You'll be telling us more about the school, but it's a state school with 804 young people aged 11 to 16. So you're very welcome, Shelley. And if you can you tell us a little more about the school and give it some wider context as well for us?
It's a really interesting school. We're a very rural school. We've got the second largest catchment area in the whole of Somerset. So the vast majority of our students are bussed in from all over the local area. With Luscombe, where it is, you wouldn't even know there was a secondary school there. It's the most kind of bizarre, out of the way place ever. So we're just outside of Taunton. Lots of secondary schools within Taunton, but we are a rural school, and our intake very much reflects that. So one of the things that we offer that I've not come across in any other school that I've taught in before, we offer agriculture. We've got a farm at the school as well. So our students get practical hands-on experience. We have had a pig, we've got sheep. My favourite to listen to in the morning from my classroom is the cockerel across the school field as well. So we've got the most amazing and diverse in that respect kind of intake. So it's lovely. We've just moved into a new build. The Department for Education have kindly paid for a large new build, but that in itself has been tricky because that's been an ongoing build for the last 18 months. And the old building still cuts my building off from the main building. So it's a very interesting place to work, very different.
You can use the cockerel as the school bell as well, perhaps.
Yeah, we possibly could do. I wouldn't rely on him too much for the times, in all fairness. He's not wonderfully regular and frequent, but there's that. And walking into school in the morning and having a ram stood in the middle of the field because he's escaped from the farm, that's normal for us on a daily basis.
It's everyone interested. Can you tell us more about your role as head of cultural capital at the school? What does it actually involve?
It's a strange one. So this role didn't exist. I started working at Kingsmead in 2019, September 2019, and it didn't exist. By trade, I'm an English teacher, but this was a role that was advertised during lockdown alongside a careers role. So I'm head of careers and cultural capital. And to start with, I was mercilessly teased by a lot of members of staff who told me that it was clearly just a made-up job. And what was cultural capital? And I had to spend a lot of time in a similar way to as we have this evening, kind of discussing what cultural capital actually is, because I felt quite strongly that it's very difficult and very subjective to define exactly what cultural capital is, because I think you have to look at the context of where you are working, because the essential skills for one child, I'm afraid, are not necessarily going to be essential skills for another child. We have to look at where they're going and what they're hoping to aspire to in life. And I think that's a big thing. So once I got over there, it's not a made up job, it's a real job. I see it very much as offering them an enriched curriculum and an enriched experience within school to open their eyes to the wider opportunities. Some of them, unfortunately, think that life begins and ends in Somerset and don't look beyond what they've got. I used to work just a little bit further up the M5 in Bridgewater, and there's a motorway junction at either end, and some of those students thought that life began at junction 24 and ended at junction 23. and to make them realise that there is a world out there that they can explore and they can experience. And so I see that very much as part of my job, is offering them those opportunities through a whole range. I've got kind of, I tend to collate mine. We've got, I did an audit earlier in the year just to see what different departments were doing, really, so that then I could offer the opportunity to those departments of, well, this has come across my desk, how about introducing this, or how about offering this? So I can kind of be the gatekeeper of many, many emails that come in, and kind of say to people, well, what would you think about introducing this? So it's a very varied role and very busy.
Fantastic. And I noticed, Shelley, as well, that you also look after the careers and work experience aspect at the school. So do you see the roles of cultural capital and careers as quite intertwined?
Yeah, I'd say so, because I think our students need to be prepared for jobs that perhaps don't even exist yet, as we're looking to the future. You know, some of the job roles that are out now, when I started teaching in 2007, 2008, those jobs didn't even exist. So we're trying to prepare these students for jobs that we can't even begin to imagine yet. So the skill set that we are hoping to offer them is really important. So work experience, for example, I launched that to year 10. A lot of schools, rather sadly, have stopped offering work experience, which I find really sad. It's a huge undertaking. It costs money. We're lucky we work with the South Somerset Partnership. So they go out and they do our health and safety checks and various bits and pieces. But I'm aware that some schools use platforms such as Unifrog as a way of getting students out there and learning. And the thing is, work experience, if you want to be a brain surgeon, for example, you are not likely to find work experience doing something like that. But what I offer up to them is the opportunity to develop these skills of what it's like to work with other adults, to work in high pressured environments. These communication skills are so essential. And that's a big part of cultural capital. How do you interact with somebody? And certainly what we've seen post-COVID is that computer screens became that barrier, and cameras off became that barrier. And the communication skills are certainly an area for development, because they've not had those face-to-face interactions. And some of ours in the summer went out on work experience and really struggled because they weren't sure how they were supposed to interact with people.
Yeah, it's been a hugely challenging time, hasn't it? What advice would you give to a school leader looking to improve that cultural enrichment? Is there any particular advice you would give them?
I have actually pinched an idea from St James School in Exeter, because I think I like to, to take a quote from Tarantino from my university years. Beg, steal and borrow from everywhere. Take inspiration from people around you. Have these conversations. St James in Exeter have got a fantastic section on their website where they have basically got 10 things that they hope all of their students will achieve by the time they leave. And I'm kind of adapting that slightly for mine, but things like representing your school. So whether you are a student council representative, whether you are a sports leader, whether you do drama, making sure that the children have that opportunity to represent and develop those leadership skills. Visits, of course, are very important, being able to go to the theatre, museums, galleries, as we've already spoken about. But what I certainly found during COVID is that the online resources are absolutely fantastic. And so what I developed for use within our school, you would have the interactive gallery tours that you could go on. And yes, I mean, we find it, we're a rural school in the southwest, we're a million miles from London, and going there takes a lot of time, a lot of money and a lot of organisation, which isn't always possible. But the online resources can be fantastic. And it's not something that's overly new. At primary school 10 years ago, my daughter used to do online conversations, her class with a classroom in France, and they would talk to each other. So it's about fostering these links, these international links, I think are so important. So we have sister schools in Zambia, and so we do a reciprocal exchange with schools in Zambia. So we will have, we've had since it started, over 250 students from our school go over to Zambia, and then we've had students from Zambia come over and stay with us as well. So it's about looking for those opportunities and growing those opportunities. Work experience, volunteering, we offer, and we'll be offering in the next few weeks, a supporting your child evening. So having that dialogue with parents about what is available in the local area, and seeking things out as well. So just open your eyes to the world. My husband gets really frustrated because I will go places and I'm constantly taking photos on my phone of, oh, I could use that at work, or oh, I could do this. Even at strange places. We went to the Bath and West show in the summer, and I was taking pictures of STEM workshops that people were offering, and yeah, just look at what's out there, really.
Absolutely agree, Shelley. Yeah, all the best teachers are learning and sharing all the time. That's fantastic. Yeah. And congratulations on your link with Zambia. I was aware of that. It's 20 years old now, isn't it? So
yes, yeah, it is started
really
in 2001. Obviously, unfortunately, because of COVID, there's been that little bit of a hiatus. But it's always really exciting for us as a school community to welcome them in. They come to lessons, they go on trips, so down to Cornwall to the Eden Project, and they get to experience everything we've got. And then going over to Zambia is the most magical experience. I'm firmly hoping that my name is on the list the next time that we go, because the experience of just going into another school, and I think that's big for cultural capital. We sometimes exist as individual entities, and having the opportunity to visit other schools and see what other people do, that collaboration is really important.
Absolutely, Shelley. And nothing beats that face-to-face engagement, does it? So it really ensures that cultural capital is a reality in the schools, and we want every school to be doing what you're doing. And finally, looking at, we know a lot of schools now, and certainly it's very important that schools looking at issues around mental well-being and mental health. And do you see cultural capital as part of that wider agenda, as well as young people's well-being?
I think so, because it's all a part of the skills that we're trying to instill within them. From our point of view, mental health, we've noticed, again, I'm sure many professionals have noticed it, post-COVID, the SDMH needs of children are huge. And again, it kind of goes back to what we were talking about before, the right of the children to have this opportunity to relax, and opening them up to different ways that they can relax. I'm always going to be the biggest champion of reading. And kind of losing yourself in a book. And one thing that I've certainly tried to do, we've had a brand new library built, and we've spent lots of money on new books. And I think one of the things that was most important was this idea of cultural diversity, and seeing different groups represented in the literature that our children were reading. Reading is a fantastic way, but listening to music as well, exploring all of these different kind of cultural outlets. We are not going to, unfortunately, see children learning effectively within the classroom until we're able to adequately address those mental health needs. Because if they are not happy, they are not well, they are not settled, they're not going to be successful learners. We need to make sure that we're kind of looking at them as a whole package, kind of a more holistic approach to something, rather than, I would never, ever, I don't view education as children being a set of numbers on a piece of paper. They are so much more than that. They are these amazing 3-dimensional, 4-dimensional characters who have just got so much to offer.
Fantastic. What a great school. We'd love to visit Kingsmead.
Please do. Come and visit us. It's lovely.
Sounds really interesting. Brilliant overview, Shelley. I just wondered, are there any questions from the audience that anybody would like to ask? Shelley?
I've noticed, John, that W. Wareham has put something in there. I don't know if they want to unmute and say it themselves, or if they'd like me to read. Is W. Wareham there? Would you want to unmute and ask your question you put in the chat?
Sure. Hi there. Sorry, can everyone hear me?
Hello, William.
Hi. Sorry. So this obviously got forwarded to me. I'm brand new to teaching global citizenship by one of my managers, and it's been a great discussion so far. Thank you for everything. Very, very helpful. What I wanted to know was, are you seeing, so sorry, we're in Cyprus at the moment, and we are following a British curriculum, but we are not a British school, so to say. We're an international, and I'd say about 40% of our student body are British by nationality. Now, that being said, I wanted to ask, are you seeing across the platforms that you're working on, schools starting global initiatives and global perspectives as actual classroom subjects dedicated to that kind of ideology? Or do you think it's better to try and integrate it into existing subjects that are already established in the curriculum? Which do you think show better results?
I will take part of that. For us, we tend to integrate an awful lot of it into our curriculum. So we deliver what we call PSHCE, which is personal, social, health, citizenship, and economic overview. So a lot of cultural capital as well is also for us interwoven in that. We also deliver a lot through tutor time as well. So children have got that opportunity to explore different issues. For us, each week in tutor time, we make sure that everybody watches a clip from the news. We will do a quiz which incorporates lots of world news as well. So the expanding that understanding of what is going on around the world is really important to us.
Thanks. Rizwana, would you like to say anything on that for William? I don't know if Rizwana is still with us. Is Holly still with us?
I think Holly and Isabel had to go. That's one of the reasons
okay.
they went earlier. So I don't think they are still there.
Okay.
I did notice Oyegoga had his hand up, but he's put it down again. Go ahead, Rizwana.
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry.
Hi, Rizwana.
Sorry, I'm just preparing for a governor's meeting at the moment, so sorry about that. Okay, sorry, could I just have the question again, please?
Basically,
Go on, John.
Sorry, William, he's based in Cyprus, and he was just asking whether issues around cultural capital are best looked at holistically or perhaps through curriculum-based topics initially. So I suppose it's initiating a cultural capital strategy, if you have any advice for William's school.
Yes, William. So as I said in my talk, what we started with was the context of our pupils. And we made the curriculum relevant to our pupils, and that really helped us then to kind of take a global view, looking at all the different ethnicities that our pupils are from. And then that gave us an opportunity, a window into building that cultural capital aligned with the curriculum objectives. So for example, Victorians is a standard topic that we study in history. And the standard approach to the national curriculum was looking at the Victorian Empire through the British lens. But because our children are from South Asia predominantly, we gave both perspectives, and to how was it for India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. And the children did interviews with grandparents and their journeys of immigration. And it really engaged our learners and also engaged the parents. And that is how we kind of build on that cultural capital. I hope that helps.
Fantastic. Thanks, Rizwana. Anything to follow up with there, William? We'll certainly stay in touch, and you'll be getting all the presentations. And if you need any further advice, we can certainly support you.
No, absolutely. Thank you so much. That's been very helpful.
I've noticed actually, John, there is another question from, I think it's Gerald Santos, about Motivating students. Gerald, were you there? Did you want to ask the question yourself? I'm not sure if he's wanted to.
Yes, hello.
Hi, Gerald. Okay.
Hello po to each and everyone. I am Gerald Santos po. I'm currently here in the Philippines. I am currently a senior high school student at St. Mary's College of May Kawayan, and I would like to know if how can we engage or introduce students towards cultural capital if personal motivation is the hindrance? I would like to know if there are any words of encouragement or any advice that we could give them to initiate a conversation that will surely help them to um introduce or be inclusive to others.
Great question. Thanks, Joel. Shelley, would you like to respond to that?
Yeah, sure. For me, it's like knowing my students. I think developing those personal relationships is really important. If you find something that they are interested in and you're able to hook them in that way, it makes a huge difference. You know, there are some students that certainly for my school, farming is the way to hook them in, or there might be a particular hobby that they like to do. For a lot of hours, rugby is a big thing as well. So knowing them on a personal level is really, really important, because then you've got that opportunity to say, wow, have you considered this, or have you seen this? So I'd personalize it as much as you possibly can, would be my advice for that one.
Great, thanks, Shelley. Rizwana, any advice?
Sorry, I'm just going to echo what Shelley's just said as well. And then going back to what I said earlier about starting with the pupil and their context. Because if they understand themselves and their context, they are more likely to engage in the wider context. And I think it's that appreciation of self. We start with that. And when the pupils have a love for themselves and a respect for themselves as responsible learners, I think they're then going to engage in the wider learning aspects. And that's been my experience anyway. We continue to do that.
Brilliant, thanks for that. Now, I noticed a hand earlier through Onu. There was a hand up earlier. Is Onu still with us? No? I noticed a question from Hilary as well. It is a challenge, Erasmus, a great challenge. Obviously, with the events over the last few years, we have left, hello Hilary, we have left the European Union, so the impact through that.
I did hear actually myself, sorry John for butting in, but I was talking to actually a gentleman in the Spanish Institute saying that Erasmus, we can still participate in Erasmus, we're just in the other bracket now. So schools can apply for funding, but we're just outside Europe. So there is a small pot for outside of Europe countries to be involved in Erasmus projects, but I think they have to be initiated by countries that are within Erasmus and invite you in as an additional outside Europe partner, so that we can still kind of access it, but like you say, not a great deal of funding available, unfortunately.
We have the Global School Alliance though, Joe, to bring us all together. Okay, any questions or reflections? We've got a range of fantastic countries joining us, which is really wonderful.
We have a hand up. Michelle, would you like to unmute and speak to John?
Hello, Michelle.
Can you hear me?
We can, yes.
I can probably turn my camera on now. Hello. I was just wondering, so I'm in a really big school, about 2,000 kids, quite high pupil premium, etc. We've got really good attention to cultural capital enrichment and things, I think. But I just wanted to know, a bit of a boring question, I think, about how you kind of track so that you know if anyone's kind of falling through and missing some of the stuff that you really want to, you know, ensure that all students are getting, because sometimes, you know, we make our best effort to know everyone, and heads of year will know everyone, but there's always going to be students who kind of, you know, hide away a little bit because they're maybe, I don't know, very quiet, or, you know, prefer to stay in the background, and then they miss out a little bit because they're not willing to put themselves forward. And, you know, if we do quite a lot to try and make sure that we are getting to everyone. And I know through the curriculum is the obvious answer to make sure that you're just doing all of that. But I guess when you're thinking of other things to offer and further enrichment, that you want to really be able to get to everyone, and not I guess just target either. Sometimes targeting is not the right way forward. Does that make sense, all of that, I suppose?
No, great question, Michelle. Shelley, any reflections on that?
It's always the big question, isn't it? Because you certainly want to target certain students. And yes, I imagine in a setting that big, obviously we're less than half the size. But I find Speakers for Schools a fantastic organisation as well. That way I'm able to get, and I should be having one tomorrow, an entire year group into our main hall, guest speaker coming in, and then we have that opportunity for them to share in something. Because again, if it's an optional, a lot of them opt out. If it's an after school idea, not all of them are going to necessarily come along with whoever looks at them after them at home. So I tend to offer things during the school day as well that will kind of impact everyone as much as possible. And yes, Speakers for Schools is one that I find particularly useful.
Sorry, what was that?
Speakers for Schools?
Yeah, no, we use Speakers for Schools. Look, we've got a very, and yeah, lots of they do lots of good virtual talks and things as well.
Yeah, definitely. But that's a good way I find for kind of ticking those boxes. But it's always worth as well looking at as broadly as you can, kind of like extracurricular bits and pieces. There's been a fantastic offer coming through for us for kind of court experiences and stuff that come through, but lots comes through our school office. And you will, I think, again, through the pastoral team, there's quite often ones that you'll notice. There are some that will just target specifically pupil premium.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just keep your eyes and ears open to absolutely everything.
Yeah, no, I mean we've definitely got lots of opportunities. I think it's more like we're trying to expand the enrichment program, because we've got a really fantastic clubs program. We just had our Year 7 open evening recently and people really impressed with it. But of course it's the kids that already know about volunteering and, like, you know, signing up for things, and it's not all, I mean, you know, they're perfectly welcome to join. We want everyone to have a go, but it's the other children that I'm wondering about, how you just make sure that if you have any, I don't know, system, or how you track what students are doing, if you do that at all, if that's at all useful. I don't know.
Again, I think Unifrog's also a good platform, because any it's a good one, especially with Unifrog, because you can sign up from Year 7, and then everything that they are then part of, you can log and track. And obviously it's a paperless system. Staff can log in the same way as well, and they can access, and staff can add to the things that they've done as well. So I find that quite a useful way of starting to track things as well.
I agree, we do use that, but I hadn't got to that function. That's great, thanks.
That's fine.
Great, thanks Michelle, thanks Shelley. Rizwana, would you like to say anything from the Carlton perspective there about tracking engagement and ensuring that all the young people are getting involved? I don't know if we've lost Rizwana to the governor.
Sorry, yes, I was just speaking to a governor. He just needs to be let into the building. I'm sorry, the life of a head teacher. Sorry.
In real time as well, thank you.
Sorry, I may have to leave now in 5 minutes. But yeah, talking about tracking, yes, we have a so soon as the children enter, we have a welcome meeting with each and every one of the parents and the child involved, and we find out about the child's context and the likes and dislikes, and we use the information that the nursery centres and the health centres, the relevant agencies, and we have a whole school matrix And within that matrix, we have a matrix of vulnerability as well. So those children are highlighted, identified from early age. Now, that is a traffic light system, the matrix, and some may come off, you know, they'll go to green and they'll be fine, it's just early days and they settle in, but some actually stay on throughout their journey. And it's those children that are then, they are, well, I don't really like to use the word targeted, but they are identified as those children who need further the beyond the talk curriculum. So we have opportunities within school and beyond, and we have youth agencies that come in and work with the children, and within the curriculum day they have pastoral sessions. We've also got a not a farm, but we've got an orchard, we've got chickens, we've got the pond area, we've got a forest class, so they get the monitors, so they get given responsibilities, roles to maintain the school grounds, and that really engages them, and that way we can get them engaging in the other aspects of the curriculum as well. So again, it's going back to knowing your children, knowing them as people, as growing, you know, growing beings who have needs, really.
Yeah, just one thing that I've forgotten as well that I think is something that perhaps schools could look into. We have some students who really struggle. A mainstream school is perhaps not for them. So one thing that we also run is what we call an extended work experience program. So the idea is that for 1, possibly 2 days a week, they will be out with a local employer who we will work with, and they will have a work-based placement as well. So for them, certainly if they're going on to do apprenticeships, local employers are a fantastic resource for us to be able to use as well. And so I think one thing that's important about cultural capital is definitely life beyond the classroom, and it doesn't always have to be classroom based, and it's about those skills. But extended work experience definitely transforms some of our students and gives them something, and then the days that they are in school, they're keen to share what they've done, and they're engaged and motivated. And for a lot of them, it also opens up like future employment opportunities as well.
Brilliant, thanks Shelley, great advice. I noticed Goga, Onu, your hand was up. I know you've been in the chat with Shelley as well about her LinkedIn details, but would you like to ask a question as well? No, I think that might have been covered. Okay, any
Hello,
other
John.
questions? Hello? Hello, Goga, would you like to ask a question?
Yes, please permit me not to on my video. It's going to affect the data flow. Sorry, please. Yeah, thanks, Shelley, for such an inspiring presentation as regards your school's approach to global citizenship education. I will do a follow-up. Thanks for sharing your email. But for the sake of the participants at this meeting, I would like to know if your school does operate a working structure in terms of policy guidelines as regards implementing global citizenship education, or indeed any other transformative education within the system. There is a formalized, constituted policy guideline for implementation, and if there is, can you give us some tidbits about creating such within a school system? Thank you.
Yeah, we have all of our policies in place. So there, we have a very clear careers policy, which I see as being a massive part of cultural capital. And then, yes, cultural capital is there outlined on our website as well, certainly as to what we offer. And it's important that every department takes a bit of ownership. So as I mentioned earlier, I carried out an audit earlier in the year just to see exactly who did what, because I think a lot of cultural capital is things that we do instinctively. Lots of things that we cover in the curriculum doesn't need to be shoehorned in there so that we tick a box. it should be something that is there and is meaningful. So for us, it's definitely worked in, and there are discussions then that we're able to have to inform these policies. These policies are then obviously reviewed by my line manager with SLT and then the governors as well. So certainly on I would say everyone's websites, the policies are there, and I think staff are made aware from the outset that this is what we are hoping to achieve, and as far as possible we're all encouraged, as the culture of our school is, to offer as many different enrichment activities as we can to broaden the view of cultural capital. So I hope that helps.
Yes, any tidbits on how to create a policy document guiding a school? What are the maybe 3 key steps one could take?
So 3 key steps. Look at what you do already. So carry out that audit to start with, to see exactly what you want to do, and consider. I would say, what do you want your students to walk away with? So when they leave you, what kind of individual do you want them to be? So for us, I want them to be the very best that they can be, very well rounded. And then for me, I am going to basically offer that, top 5, top 10. These are the things that they are going to be involved in, or they are going to do when they leave this educational setting. So create your own pledge as to, this is what we are going to offer our students, and this is what they are going to do to enable them to be these global citizens.
Thanks. Thank you, Shelley. Thanks.
Actually, you go. I think if you wanted to drop us a line or look on the website, we also have an audit template, and we have an international policy guideline. So we might have some frameworks that we can advise you on or share with you. So contact us and we'll send what we've got.
Yeah, thanks, Tony. Thanks.
No problem.
That's great. Thanks, Shelley. Thanks. There you go. Great advice there. I think we've got time for maybe one more question, Tony. Any hands up or anything in the chat?
I think actually hopefully we've answered Cameron. Cameron was asking about tracking, and I think that might have come up. Cameron, have we answered your question? Is Cameron Omar still there?
Yes, hello. Sorry, my camera's not working on my laptop. But yeah, I was just about to say, thank you very much. It's sort of answered. I've spoke to Shelley this week, actually. Just sort of, I've been given a sort of drive team at school for cultural capital, and I think the last 2 things have really helped. And I think from listening to people, what I've found is our school are doing a lot, but I feel like it's too much, and it's not being, I don't know, sort of enforced all throughout each year group. And like I said, I think it needs more streamlining, where maybe top 10 things for year 7 and then 10 things for year 8 and then year 9, 10, 11. And we've tried to roll out a program where they achieve badges each year. And they sort of get a badge in school and they can wear it on that blazer. But I think sometimes it's like, especially within curriculum, it's like a tick box thing. But I think the whole school engagement thing is something that needs to be delivered, I guess, from the outset. But yeah, it's really helpful knowing with the audit, we've got Unifrog as well. But I think sometimes in schools, there's that many different systems. It's like, oh, I forgot to do that. And I think for me, it's probably speaking to staff and then realizing how do you streamline it. But some of the things said actually really help. So yeah, thank you very much.
Great, thanks, Cameron. Good luck with that.
I was going to say, Cameron, sometimes it can be, like I say, streamlining is a good thing. If you're trying to focus on too many things, they fall through the cracks, and people, especially teachers, are overwhelmed anyway. And you think, oh, I've got to do all this as well as my standards. So I think, like I say, having a focus and more specific things to do rather than too many things to incorporate, it would definitely help the work-life balance.
That's brilliant. Okay, and that brings us very nicely to 6 o'clock in our 2 hours. And just to say a huge thanks to the wonderful Shelley Cousins. It's a brilliant school, and good luck with all your fantastic work, Shelley. Really, really inspiring.
Thank you for having me.
And we all look forward to visiting.
Yes, please do. If anybody wants to visit, drop me an email. I'd be more than happy. I'd be more than happy to welcome in any visitors who would like to kind of see it all in action. That's absolutely fine.
Brilliant. Thanks, Shelley.
Thank you.
You might regret that, Shelley, when you have a queue of people at your door. But yes. Thank you so much, and thank you everybody for participating. And it's so nice to have more audience participation that we haven't had in the past. It's wonderful. So the next one, again, if you're coming up again, 27th of October, we are always welcoming speakers. So if you wanted to actually present at one of our conferences, get in touch, because we always have such amazing people joining us. So 27th of October, this will happen every month, and in between, go on the platform, register and join us if you're not already a member, and enjoy the rest of your day. So keep in touch, guys, and thanks for joining us today. Bye for now.
Thanks, everyone. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks.